Welcome to Nexus. I'm Wanda Allen Aberhad, the Director of the Human Relations Department. We are excited to have the opportunity to bring you today's program. The Human Relations Department enforces and encourages fair treatment and equal rights for the residents of the City of Winston-Salem. The Human Relations Department has three key areas of responsibility. They are investigating housing discrimination based on race, color, national origin, religion, disability, family status, and gender, mediating landlord-tenant complaints, and conducting cultural diversity education and inclusion training and outreach. This television program is a part of our education and outreach efforts. All Nexus television programs feature community partners. During this episode, we will focus on our Building Integrated Communities update and an important emerging fair housing issue. Our guests are Jennifer Foy, Executive Director for World Relief of the Triad and a community stakeholder with the Building Integrated Communities Stakeholder Committee, and Dan Cornelis, Executive Director for Forsyth County Community Development. Now, let's join Adolfo Briceño of our staff, who will interview today's guests.
Well, thank you, Wanda, and thank you for being with us in this edition of Nexus TV. And thank you for our first guest. This is Jennifer Foy. She is the Executive Director for World Relief. Thank you for being with us, Jennifer.
Thank you for inviting me.
Wonderful. Now, we are going to be discussing today a little bit about these symposium that's going to be organized between World Relief and the City of Winston-Salem. But before we delve into the matter, tell me a little bit of what is World Relief and the Triad and what is its function?
So World Relief is a nonprofit, and our focus is the refugee immigrant community, and also we do some work on anti-human trafficking. So we spend a lot of time working with those individuals as they arrive in our community and help them to integrate and find a place here.
Wonderful. Now, in general, what is the partnership between World Relief and the Human Relations Department for the City of Winston-Salem?
It's really the bridge between us welcoming immigrants in the community as a nonprofit and really connecting them to the community. Human Relations has done a great job with the BIT committee of bringing all different aspects of the community, from transportation and health, housing, all those different people to the table, and acting as a moderator to have these great conversations and provide resources within the community. So we've jumped in with them and work hard to offer opportunities for integration for immigrants in our community.
Thank you, Jennifer. For those who aren't aware of this, tell me what nationalities you deal with. I know because of the programs that we have together, that we have here Karenis, we have
Congolese,
Congo, right? People from where, please?
Okay, Burma, Congo, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Syria, Somalia, Cuba,
yes.
And then the larger Hispanic community. And then as we serve survivors of human trafficking, there's a lot of Asian communities and a large number of Hispanic clients that come through that program.
I see. Yeah, I know we have translators for Somali, right? Arabic also. Some people that speak Arabic. Wonderful. Now tell me, how did this idea came about this symposium? What was the need that you saw?
I was having a conversation with the city one day, and the recognition that we need to get a larger part of the community involved in the conversation. The BIT community committee is great, but that gets 10 to 12 people around the table. We need to offer resources to the larger community, whether it's for doctors, for law enforcement, other nonprofits in town. How do they work with the immigrant community? What are some best practices, and what are resources to them in the community? How can they find interpreters? How can they help address housing issues, and where do they go for that?
I see. In your interactions with them, what do you see is the need there? Is it in the health? Is it in the interaction with police? Is it in education? What it is that you see on the ground?
It's in all of it. I think, as World Relief, we're very focused on integration, that, a lot of people talk about assimilation, and the difference is assimilation is trying to make society a fruit smoothie, where everyone looks alike, acts alike, does everything the same. But what we want is integration. We really would like to see a fruit salad rather than a fruit smoothie. We want to see the diversity and enjoy the diversity of what's in front of us in our community, and not force everyone to be the same. That everything works well together and is connected. And so the idea behind this conference and everything is that how can we offer opportunities to local providers and community members to help immigrants and refugees integrate in their community? How can we respect their traditions, but also help them find a place where they feel comfortable and a part of what we are here?
So that's a very interesting distinction. So integration is they can still integrate in a very real way and be a positive impact to the community, but keeping their identity. Is that assimilation will be erasing them in a way, that identity, correct?
Yeah. Assimilation is asking someone to forget their culture and adopt only ours.
Oh, I see.
Which, leaves us with a pretty boring society. We want all the different types of food in our community. We want the different music and that kind of thing. So really finding a way to make that happen, and helping educate people on best practices to make that possible.
Wonderful. And now that we're talking about best practices, Jennifer, so what it is, what you envision that those participants in this symposium will get out of? What it is that you ideally envision that they will take of this symposium once it's over?
What we're hoping is that people will first hear some of the challenges that immigrants face as they enter our community. They will learn some solutions to some of those problems, and they'll walk away with resources of ways to assist immigrants as they encounter them. So if it's housing, understanding what the challenges are for immigrants as they seek housing and try and address housing issues, and who can help, and where, if I'm a doctor and I know I have a patient who's having housing issues, where can I send them, or what resources can I give them to assist them in that? So really just trying to make sure that everyone walks away both with a greater education about the topic, but also resources to help provide solutions for immigrants.
I see. If there was a message to the greater community, Jennifer, regarding immigrants and the sometimes the anxiety that can bring, what would that be? That,
above all, immigrants need relationships and friends. There's an analogy of a cell phone. You and I have a cell phone, and we probably have 100 or more contacts in that phone. If you have a flat tire, there's always a phone number you can call. For an immigrant newly arrived to Winston-Salem, they have a cell phone. How many numbers do they have in that cell phone of someone locally? If they're having a housing issue, they're having car trouble, what do they have to be able to have a network to solve those problems? And the most important piece of that is a relationship, to have someone they can call, or an agency they can call that can give them the resources. Not to do it for them, but to show them where to get that help.
I see. Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for the information, Jennifer. And this symposium will be sometime in November this year, 2018. Thank you very much, Jennifer, for your time. Jennifer Foy is the Executive Director for World Relief. And thank you again for your time. And we'll be right back with our second guest of Nexus TV.
Every time I hear the alarm bell go off in school, I think it's an air raid.
A lot of houses in our neighborhood have been destroyed. I like to close my ears and sing songs whenever the bombs come close.
I'm worried our new neighbors won't like us.
But I know it's all gonna be worth it. I just want my family to be safe. But these are not my words.
These are not my words.
These are not my words.
Well, thank you very much for still being with us in this edition of Nexus TV. Our second guest of the show is Mr. Dan Cornelis. Dan Cornelis is the Director of the Community and Economic Development for Forsyth County. correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan, for being with us. We are going to be talking a little bit about this upcoming symposium that we're going to be doing. Tell me a little bit, Dan, what kind of partnership does the Community and Economic Development and the city and the Human Relations Department have?
Sure. Forsyth County has been fortunate to have a great relationship with the City of Winston-Salem Human Relations Department. I think I've served on the New Horizons Fair Housing Committee for some time, and I'm not sure exactly how many years we've been around, but it's been probably over 20, 25 years. It's a great organization. It helps us to really focus on housing issues, whether it be fair housing or whether there's a specific supply of housing that's needed, or when issues like, for 1 year we were looking at a lot of foreclosures in Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. Yeah. And so we were been able to focus on theirs, and they've been the partners. New Horizons Fair Housing Group has always been good about getting professionals together, people that do the work, whether they be with the city, the county, our nonprofits, our community groups, et cetera, in our financial institutions, and really discuss items that are of concern to our community.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, for those who aren't aware, Dan has also been very, very involved with the Fair Housing Summit that the Human Relations Department does every year. Now, tell me a little bit about, you already explained it, kind of like what is the Fair Housing Committee and what is its function?
So I think one of the main functions, and when it was first set up, was to be kind of the eyes and ears of the community. It's helping the human relations in the county keep involved with their citizenry and looking at issues that are going to come up to the forefront. But I think, it started out being just mainly a fair housing thing, and then it's kind of pushed onward to also look at the affordability of housing, how to provide more housing, there may be issues with disabilities, folks with disabilities being able to get into housing and so forth. So it's expanded over the years, but it's a group of diverse folks that represent everybody from the private sector to the public sector to our nonprofits and citizens to come together and talk about these issues.
Wonderful. Now, let's delve into the issue of the gentrification. How this symposium came about, and what do you see the need in there in the next few years when it comes to gentrification?
So I'm going to answer the first question first, is how we got there. So it's one of the things I really like about working on the Fair Housing Committee and serving on that is every year we do a summit, Fair and Affordable Housing Summit, and it's in April because usually that's Fair Housing Month.
Yes, yes.
And so, as you know, we start in December and meeting, and the meetings are really fun. They're filled with facts, but they're also really issues that come out. And you think every year we start in December saying, okay, what are the issues that we're going to present at the next summit? And so we start talking on it, and we argue, we disagree with each other, but we also come up with very interesting topics. And by the end of the day, we have these topics. This last year, as we were getting ready for this, we started talking about gentrification. First of all, I think it started out with the premise that there's lots of folks that say that people no longer want to buy homes, especially the younger generation. And so that really caused a lot of conversation and really directed us. And then it started getting into other areas. And really one of the final areas we talked about was this gentrification and how that affects neighborhoods, how that affects people wanting to buy, how it affects the value of your homes, and really how it has some detrimental effects on the whole community and the neighborhoods that it happens in.
And when it happens, are there any solutions that we are aware of?
I think it's tough. I think one of the things is maybe you don't completely get away with gentrification, but you try to curb the amount of it. One of the things that you're asking for is that you want investment in your community. Every community wants investment. They want to have sidewalks. They want to have restaurants to eat at. They want to have places of employment. They want to have a safe community, nice schools and everything. So that's something to always look forward to and to strive. But I think sometimes that when we do that, the issue becomes, do we displace low-income people as a result of that? And how we overcome that, how we minimize that, how we try to provide this investment and revitalization and keep the same people that were living there basically in that community.
Right. So when the symposium ends, and it's going to be in sometime in November this year, what it is that you believe the participants will get from the symposium? What it is ideally the takeaways that they should get out of this symposium?
So I think it's, one of the things in preparing for this meeting and some of the other meetings, I've looked up gentrification, and I've looked at all the different definitions of gentrification. And a lot of times it's spoken of badly, but they also say it brings investment, and it attracts businesses. As your neighborhoods grow, more income comes into it, more businesses are willing to locate there. So there's some good things about it, but again, the bad things are that you walk away. Can you keep the folks that are in that neighborhood and have them prosper just like any kind of new folks that come in or new investment that comes in?
Thank you very much for your comments. This was Dan Cornelis. He is the Director of the Community and Economic Development for Forsyth County. Thank you again. And thank you for being still with us. And we'll be back with Jamie and the Nexus Challenge.
Thanks, Adolfo. I'm Jamie Waldeck, and this is the Nexus Challenge, where we test your knowledge about fair housing laws. Here's our first question. Which of the following comments or questions about protected characteristics would violate fair housing law during the rental or selling process for the buyer? A, you might be more comfortable living elsewhere. B, I'll show you neighborhoods with mosques. C, we only take people that speak English. Or D, all of the above. The answer is D, all of the above. The law does not require discriminatory intent to impose liability for making discriminatory statements. So you could get in trouble by comments or questions during casual conversation. It's unlawful to make statements that express a preference for or against anyone based on national origin and any other characteristic protected under federal, state, or local fair housing law. Here's our next question. If a rental home is broken into, who's responsible for investigating the matter? A, the landlord. B, the police department. C, the tenant. The answer is B, the police department. The tenants should contact the police department if their home has been broken into. And here's our last question. A family comes to your housing complex to see available units. Which of the following should be shown? A, only the units near the playground. B, units beside families. C, keep the family away from the unit by the pond for their children's safety. D, show all available units. The answer is D, show all available units. Even if well-meaning, you could be accused of discrimination based on family status for guiding families with children to or away from certain areas within the community. The Fair Housing Act prohibits steering, that is, encouraging or discouraging prospects to live in a particular part of the community because of their race, color, religion, national origin, sex, family status, or disability. And that's this month's Nexus Challenge. I'm Jamie Waldeck. Now let's go back to Wanda.
Thank you, Jamie. Before we go, here's a look at some upcoming events. We hope you enjoyed the program. Thank you for watching Nexus. I'm Wanda Allen Abraha. See you next time.